Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about how a dismissive avoidant will handle a relationship during quarantine or during just like long distance. And the reason I'm sort of putting these two things together in the same category is because of the fact that they're basically creating some of the same impact. So if you're quarantining, you're not seeing each other as often, there'll feel like there's more separation, isolation, distance, and obviously a long distance relationship does some of the same stuff. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit in detail here. Before I dive into the content, we're still doing a sale to support our community right now. We're offering 25% off of any bundled membership. So 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. The coupon code is with you. I'll put a little button in the window here in the little video here somewhere. And we have close to 90 live webinars now, 30 or so pre-recorded courses. We add 2 every single month. I keep doing 3 live webinars every single week. So we have like a full resource library on all different topics. And we've talked a lot about handling relationships with a dismissive avoidant and different communication tactics. And one really incredible thing that we've added that I'm very pumped about is communication scripts. So when you are actually trying to work through things and have a conversation, what you can do. So we have a whole bunch of different dynamics and potential situations. An example would be how to communicate to the dismissive avoidant that you need attention if you're the anxious preoccupied. And we actually have physical scripts there that you can follow and sort of insert your own situations into. And we'll be posting a few of the examples of them with some cool little infographics on social media as well. So let's talk about the dismissive avoidant. Well, everybody has 6 basic human needs, and one of those basic human needs is love and connection. And while the dismissive avoidant derives a lot of their love and connection from obviously their sense of self and the relationship they have to themselves, and also quite often like their close friendships, it is more uncommon for a dismissive avoidant to like have a strong need for love and connection that they specifically get from the romantic relationship, because they associate that type of relationship as being one of vulnerability, one of feeling out of control, all these different things that they don't like. And so they tend to have built in like sort of pain-oriented associations in there, like, oh, relationships equals pain. And so I'm going to get my needs met from elsewhere. And what this creates during COVID is an almost different effect than what you would expect. So what I have often seen is that dismissive avoidants, when they enter into long distance relationships, for example, often like open themselves more or allow themselves to become more vulnerable. And this also occurs for fearful avoidants who lean dismissive. And I think a really big reason for this is that it's almost like that dismissiveness or that space that acts as a buffer and creates the safety for the dismissive avoidant is automatically inserted into the relationship dynamic. And so what I've often seen is like people in long distance relationships with DAs feel like, oh my gosh, they get this really charismatic, present, kind, loving version of the dismissive avoidant, and then they move into the same space, the same city, the same town, they move in together, whatever it might be, and all of a sudden they start to actually see the dismissiveness. And what this does is the lack of space in the relationship, being in the same city or living in the same space, often creates this dynamic for the dismissive avoidant where it's like, oh, now this feels really vulnerable. It feels really committed. It feels like there's a lot on the line. It feels like there's expectations. And these things often give the DA that sort of catalyst to ignite some of their core wounds. And they usually get cold feet as a result. And that's where you'll see some of those really avoidant patterns emerge. So during COVID and some of the quarantine and isolation that's going on, what I've often seen through different patterns in here is that it has sort of the same impact. It's like that space is already there. So you might actually see a little bit more consistency from the dismissive avoidant. Fearful avoidants seeming to affect the most in terms of how they show up in a relationship, because some of their triggers are ignited, or the fear of distrust can come up, or trust being broken can come up. But dismissive avoidants, you might actually see that they reach out more. Even people are having a lot more of their exes from the past start to reach out, and these different things. And again, it's because that necessity of distance that's happening in the environment itself is actually creating a buffer that makes a dismissive avoidant feel more secure, feel more safe. And so you're sort of seeing that person as they might be without some of those core wounds being activated or ignited. So how would you manage this, or how can you work through this? Well, I think what's really important is to sort of work to, let's say you're in this relationship right now, work to be consistent back, because if this goes on for long enough, it can actually reprogram the relationship dynamic and how you interact. But your job is that if you're in the relationship to the person, you show up as more secure as well, and you show up consistently, communicate, create a safe dynamic and environment. And then most importantly, make sure that if some of this changes and some of this ends, and I'll do a series on this, I just wanted to like touch on some key points here. I have like a bit of a short time today to do a video. Some key points here are that if this ends, and you're seeing like, oh, the person go back into more of their avoidant behaviors and the quarantine ends or things like this, it's really important that you set a standard for what you're willing to put up with, like to make sure that you are able to communicate your needs consistently, clearly, directly, show up for them, so that you maintain whatever net positives came out of this, and it enters into a real life dynamic if you end up being in a similar space, or quarantine ends, or you're in close quarters together at some point. And if you are seeing a little bit of the withdrawal, because that can happen as well, if you're seeing a little bit of the pulling back from the dismissive avoidant, because sometimes when they're under stress, they go into their shell, then a really important thing to do on that note is to make sure that you hold back. And often the analogy I give is like an ice skating analogy. If you are going skating with somebody and they don't have the same experience as you, they haven't been on ice skates a whole bunch, maybe they've never been in their lives, and you want to skate with them, and it's a date, and the point is to skate with them. You're not going to go skating around the rink at your pace, because you're just going to lose the person, right? They're not going to be able to keep up with you even if they want to. And the same sort of analogy applies to somebody in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant. You probably have a lot more experience, working through your emotions, feeling your feelings, not repressing them, communicating some of your feelings, having presence, having this back and forth, because that's been a subconscious comfort zone for you, probably in a different way than it has been to the dismissive avoidant. So if you want to move things along, it has to be at that pace. It has to be at the pace of somebody who doesn't have as much experience in that area. And you sort of have to take that into consideration. So it's just another small key points in there. So what I can do is in a separate video, go through and do some like sort of deep dives into how to communicate in different TypeScript options, and put a video together that's a little bit more detailed. But I just wanted to put some of the patterns out here, because I've been getting a lot of questions about what to do and about how these things are impacting, and just wanted to be really clear here as well. So last thing I will say is make sure you are also really consistent at showing up with your own boundaries during this entire time. And I hope that everybody's doing well, and everybody's doing okay during this quarantine and some of the challenges that are going on in the world. I've made some recent videos about this just to create a little bit of extra support. And yeah, that's it for this video. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video.